Street gospel, light of the temple. Sword swing, killer live from the ghetto. The hood messenger, let them know hell's close. Blackberry on the devil in a black cloak.
Yo, what is up? Welcome to the Street Gospel Podcast. I'm your host, Dave One, and this is episode number... Yo, Melissa. Yes, Melissa. What episode is this?
85.
85. Episode number 85. Okay, if you're wondering where Camo's at, Camo had to work tonight, man. So I didn't have nobody to fill in, you know. Camo was going to hit up some of his homies, you know, from church, these audio video dudes, and none of them were available. So Cash wasn't available either. Couldn't use her today. And then Melissa, my beautiful wife, decided that she wanted to help and she can control the board. Are you all right back there?
I'm good.
All right, she just started, so it should be fine. Camo showed her what to do, set her up good. She's ready to go. But man, we appreciate you guys. So if you didn't check out episode number 84, we had Pomona's finest, A.B. Alvarez, man, tattoo artist, got his own tattoo shop in Upland, California, 3-foot radius. Definitely was a fun episode. I mean, we talked about politics, we talked about life and death, we talked about God, we talked about business, overcoming addiction, family. I mean, it was like a 2-hour and 20-minute podcast, but man, it went like that. So we appreciate A.B., man. And if you haven't checked out that episode, please check it out. And please subscribe. We need you guys to subscribe. So go on YouTube, check us out, Street Gospel Podcast, Street Gospel TV. Hit that subscribe button. And then on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to us at, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it. And share it with somebody. But we got a guest today, man. I've been following this dude for a little while. We've been in contact a little bit. And, you know, he is a brother in the Lord.
Yes, sir.
He is he roamed these same streets over here for a little bit, but mostly in the SGV, right?
Rosemead, yeah.
Rosemead area. He's a believer, a father, a husband, a preacher. I saw some of his stuff on YouTube. He's been on a couple of podcasts, but he came to the real podcast.
Yes, sir.
I want to welcome to the Street Gospel Podcast, Mr. Isaac Pedroza.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
What is up, bro?
Man, just here, man. I'm glad I'm here. I have been on a lot of platforms, but I believe this is the first, I would call this Christian platform. Obviously, Street Gospel. A lot of other platforms are secular, even though they've been a blessing, but I think I was due, you know, to come to a more, I guess, how could I say, believerish,
faith-based,
faith-based.
Right?
Yeah.
When I tell people, I'm like, yeah, we're faith-based, but I did catch you on Scene Mills.
Yeah, Cinnamills, yeah.
Yeah, Cinnamills. I was Cinnamills. That's how he pronounces it. Okay, my bad. Yeah, okay.
Cinnamills.
Yeah, I liked his stuff. I got caught up in watching some of his stuff, and the I think he had a lot of biker stuff. And you know, I'm on the treadmill at the gym. I'm like, watch this dude, or the sauna. I'm listening to him, checking him out, and then you popped up one day, and I was like, oh, this dude sounds cool, man. So I watched it, and that he has a good podcast. I like his podcast.
Yeah, good editing. I like his style.
Good editing. He puts the backdrop in there. He gets a lot of good guests. So shout out to him, man, because that's where I first saw you. But definitely, man, I'm glad you came to faith-based podcast.
Man.
I tell everybody we're a faith-based podcast, but we have everybody.
Yeah.
So my believer friends get freaked out. Well, not all of them, but some of them get freaked out. Like, oh my God, the dude was cussing a lot. And I'm like, well, you know, I love them, you know, and they might have a good story, but it's my friends, and we'll put them on there, and sometimes they have some good stuff, man. They just need,
and you never know what the Lord can do through that, right?
Exactly, right. I don't want to write them off. I'm sure you probably deal with that with homeboys, right?
All the time. Yeah.
All the old homeboys want to hit you up and just, hey, make a connection. We can't totally sever that.
Nah, Jesus would probably be right there with them too.
Right, just making the connection, keeping the lines of communication open.
Amen.
I think that's the biggest thing, bro. So first time we met in person, first time we get to know each other. Let's start in the beginning.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up at?
So I was born in, I would say Lincoln Heights General Hospital. and I was raised. All my family was raised in East LA, Boyle Heights area. I was raised there as well, right off of Evergreen and Cesar Chavez on a street called Cincinnati.
Okay.
Which gang territory would be like Cam now, but back then I really don't even know what it was. But that's how I kind of distinguish different places through different hoods, right? But
I do it by places to eat. So
that too.
El Tepaya.
Yeah, Tepeyac, yo, King Taco right there. Yo.
Right, that's how I distinguish that.
Yeah. So I grew up there till I was right around 7 years old, and then my mom moved us out because she wanted to keep us away from the gang life, and then we moved to Monterey Park. I was there for about a year. Right there off of Garvey, right next to kind of Atlantic, closer to Garfield.
Closer to the hat.
Yes, right there, yeah. So from there, we moved to where we got established, which is Rosemead, right off of Garvey and San Gabriel Boulevard. And that's pretty much where I was raised,
What year was that?
This had to be 1986, 1987. Okay. Yeah.
So still, it wasn't... San Gabriel Valley wasn't... you moved from East LA to Monterey Park back then. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like you moved up.
Yeah.
For us, it was like when we lived in Bal Cudahy, you moved to Downey. You moved up, right?
Yeah.
And then like for people that grew up in East LA, you moved to, I guess, some parts of Montebello or Monterey Park.
Monterey Park.
And then you kind of like, moved up a little bit. But was Rosemead a move up back then? Because I wasn't too familiar.
Then we moved, I guess, back down. Okay. Which, it wasn't... As a kid, you don't really look at it like that, but I grew up like in a trailer park, and the trailer park was predominantly all Mexican. It was like little baby Mexico, and that was my little stomping grounds. But outside the surrounding area, it was pretty much Mexican and Asian. There's a lot of Asians out there. Now there's a little bit more, so. It's not like super ghetto. It has its little ghetto parts. Like right where I was at, you could consider that kind of ghetto. But it has its good parts too. So,
and did you grow up with just like a normal kid, mom, dad?
I grew up just with the mother. It was just my mom. I didn't have a father growing up, so my mom was always working. She did she worked nights. She worked convalescent hospitals. And so she was gone a lot. She was gone a lot. My sister, she's a little bit older, about 10 years older. She kind of used to take care of us. And but then she got married, so it was pretty much just me and my brother. He's 3 years older. And that's kind of how things opened up, to where we started partying and inviting, the homies over and stuff like that,
It's funny that you say that because I had AB on, and he said when his parents divorced, he's like 14, 15. And he said, my mom's working all the time. And he goes, and then it wasn't a matter of we went out looking for trouble. It was just we had freedom.
Yeah.
And there was no supervision.
Yeah.
So you start going out into the neighborhood, into the street, and just hanging out.
Yeah.
And
it's normal.
Yeah. He said it wasn't like he didn't set out to be a bad kid or do something wrong. It was just like, there was freedom and there was no supervision, and then they started getting in trouble.
That's how it happened. That's how it happened back then. It wasn't kind of like now. The kids kind of gravitate towards that because of the culture, the music, stuff like that, right? But for us, for me at least, it was something like you said. It kind of just evolved naturally, and we weren't out there. We were, just regular kids, and as kids, you kind of, you get into little things here and there, the riding bikes and being little mischiefs here and there, I was definitely a bad kid, but it wasn't something like where we looked at it like, oh, that's what I want to be. It just happened.
Yeah, it's a trip. It's I had my dad, so we had supervision. He would come and call my name, the whole neighborhood, and everybody laughing at me, and time to come inside, to go inside.
Thing,
but it was you can see how even now, but there's a lot of parents that are they could be great parents, and you might have 2 working parents.
Exactly.
And the kids are coming home from school, and you know, nobody's there for them, and the parents are working late, and they show up, and kids could get easily caught up.
Yeah, I know a lot. I know quite a few. You know, they grew up good households. You know, I got some homies. They had good households, good parents. You know, like you said, working, and I think a lot of it has to do with the area as well. Your friends, who your friends are.
Right.
If you're in school, especially back then, I started off young in elementary. You know, I started off gravitating in that towards that gang life and stuff. But even like junior high and you know, the upbringing, the friends has a lot to do with it. You know, if you're around that, naturally you're gonna gravitate towards that, and you're gonna end up, you know, going that way. You know.
So were you like first generation gang member?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's sometimes you hear like my grandfather was from the neighborhood, my dad was from the you were first generation.
I had uncles. I had uncles and aunts that were from. One was from Oyo Maravilla. My aunt, she's a believer too. She was from Tercera, which is now Breed Street, right there in East LA, Boyle Heights. But other than that, it wasn't like that. Like other households, like I got homies that their dad, everybody's
right.
from the hood, you know. But so I would say, we were like the first generation, me and my brother.
Nice.
First and only generation.
Yeah, that's even nicer, right? Yeah, my from me forward, that was done. Mm-hmm. You know, my wife too. You know,
yeah, exactly.
Her family was from Watts, my family was from Florence. After they got saved, that was it for us. So praise God for that, man.
Lord, yeah.
So you when did you really start getting caught up, like and seeing in that pool of the neighborhood life?
So I always remember it by grades. So 4th grade, I remember already. You know, I was just a kid though, but I was already around that. I had a older friend who was a big influence in my life, and he was my brother's age, 3 years older. So he was in junior high. He was already involved in that, and he used to always have me with him, and he used to take me with him to the hood, to the neighborhood, to the hills, around all. So everybody got to know me early on. You know,
you're talking like 9 years old.
I'm talking 9 years old, 5th, 6th grade. But I wasn't from the hood technically, officially, but I was backing up the neighborhood, and so that influence had a great deal to do with it. But when I really kind of started really going there is right around 7th grade. I believe I got jumped in 7th grade. I got jumped in 1990. November 27th, which is my birthday. I remember it because it was my birthday.
November 27th, 1990.
Yes, 1990.
Wow. Yeah. On your birthday?
On my birthday.
So were you like partying and stuff?
We were at the park. We were at Garvey Park, and we were just hanging out with the homies, and my ticket came up. It was me and two other homies, and they were like, it's time for you, you guys ready to get in or what? And we're like, yup, let's do it.
How old were you?
I was about 12.
12 years old.
Yeah, about 12, yeah. My 12th birthday, actually. Yeah,
and what did you think? What were you thinking you were getting into? Because obviously you probably didn't know the full ramifications.
At that time, I kind of already knew what it entailed. I already knew, not to tell. I already been around guns and all that kind of stuff. But of course, you don't know the full length of it, right? You don't even realize that till later, even like the whole, all the different elements that come with it, right? But I was a kid, and once you're kind of caught up in that whirlwind, you want it, you desire it, and it's like you want to move to the next level, you want to graduate, right? So when you get in, it's like that's a big step, it's a big thing. So, but I knew, I knew that I could die any day. I knew that I could go to jail. And I even though I was young, I knew that much,
So once you get into the neighborhood, what does the next level look like at 12 years old? What are you trying to graduate to from at 12?
So I guess you don't really look at it like that. Like, okay, what am I going to do now? It's just that now you're in the hood. Now it's forever. It's like, this is my life. This is my life. This is what I'm repping. I'm no longer representing just myself. I'm representing something bigger than me, and I'm not alone. I got all my homies with me, and so you kind of feed off each other. And I'm not gonna lie, it was fun too. That's a big thing that I guess it's kind of like something that's magnetic. It kind of just draws you in. The partying, the girls, you know what I mean, the drugs, the power. I guess the what you feel like, you feel bigger.
You don't feel alone, right?
You don't feel alone, and you feel like you're bigger and badder than the regular average kid.
Did you get that at school now that you were in the hood? Like,
yeah,
okay,
everybody looks at. Well, I had that young. I already had that because I started off young. So all my school friends, they already knew like who I was, what I was gonna be. Like there was no doubting,
There was no stereotyping.
Yeah.
They just knew.
Yeah, they knew, but they were still my friends, like, and so I was always that little kid. But once I was from the hood, like, they knew, like, hey, I got in. Oh damn, and that was it. Yeah, I was that guy. And you do feel, I don't even know what to call it, but there's definitely something where you feel, I guess it has to do with power, like a little power, and,
sure.
and it's pride. A lot of it's pride, and you feel puffed up. You feel puffed up, and nobody can mess with you, right? If someone messes with you, like, they don't want to make that mistake, type of thing. So yeah.
In your neighborhood in Rosemead, do you have a lot of enemies? Are they within Rosemead, or because I know there's surrounding neighborhoods in other cities right in there?
There was a couple they're like little gangs, but yeah, all our pretty much surrounding cities, San Gabriel, Amani, those were all our rivals. And then on the other side, of course, like Montebello as well, and then this way, on this side of Monterey Park, is East LA, which there's more Maravillas. And so, yeah, we had, but our main rivals were pretty much the city's over. And then within the city, we also had like Asian boys. We had a lot of Asian gangs, but we didn't go at it with them like that. It was pretty much like just Asian boys. But they're not, Asian gangs, they're not like territorial. That was pretty much like our neighborhood. Even though a lot of them, they grew up there, but they were more about like money and stuff like that. But the ones that try to kind of bang was the ones from Asian boys. So so we had like 3 different little within the city enemies, and then the San Gabriel,
which is pretty unique, because you'll have enemies within your city, mm-hmm. and then the rest of San Gabriel Valley, and then you kind of borderlined parts of East LA.
Yeah, our neighborhoods, the last pretty much moving closer to East LA, Montebello, the east side. Where, like, actually, I think back in the day, they used to be considered even kind of east side. Like, because Monterey Park, there's a place called, they used to call it Portside, I believe. Portside. So that was considered kind of east side. It's like, it connects. So, and then it connected from this side, it connected to us, and then on this side, connected to Maravilla. So, yeah, that's why I consider it LA. Like, I never even claimed SGV. I always claimed LA.
Yeah, some people, they get into the whole territorial thing. But there's a lot of people from Boyle Heights that say it's Boyle Heights, not East LA.
Yeah, Boyle Heights, it's not East LA. Yeah, so that's why I say now Boyle Heights.
East LA,
I don't say East LA, because anything I think on this side of Whittier, on the what is it? On the let me see. So east on the north side, on the south side of Whittier.
Yeah.
Is East LA. And then anything on this side would be considered Boyle Heights. And then somewhere in the middle, a lot of those in the middle, they claim East LA even though they're on the Boyle Heights side.
Right.
So.
It's a trip.
Yeah, it's a trip. Right?
You got to know where you're going through when you're.
I love it out there. Though. I love being out there. Even now, I love going out over there. It's where I grew up. All my siblings were from there. I went to Roosevelt, Garfield. Like I said, my uncle, my tia were from that area.
That's one area I think the culture has remained.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For a very long time. There's a few places that it's changed, or, maybe at one time there was white people living there, or a lot of the black neighborhoods, there's like a lot of Mexicans living there
Yeah.
now, you know, so it's different. But I think that area of East LA, Boyle Heights, it's pretty much stayed the same. It kind of reminds me like the Florence area. It's
stayed
the same. There's
same thing,
like generations that live there, and they just grandma passes the house down to the next person. And everybody lives there.
Oh, it is. I actually grew up during the breakdancing days, so that was like a big influence on us. The breakdancing, and then the disco era. My sister was what they would call a disco bunny. She was, you know, so we were influenced by that. I still like that. My son, he loves the disco music.
Yeah.
And the breakdancing. My brother, I was a little young, but my brother, he was like part of a little crew, and I was always tagging along, so I considered myself part of that too. And but it was a beautiful time to be raised, man.
I think the 80s, 90s, best time, you know, to be raised. I think if you're raised, you know, after that, it was a little different.
Yeah, it switched up a little
bit. It was a little bit different. But those eras right there have a lot of good memories, a lot of first, you know.
Yeah.
You know, hip hop first, you know, those eras, you know, there was, video games, you know.
It was a foundation of a lot of stuff. Yeah.
It was just a lot of different things that just, you know, that started in those eras, you know, late 70s, 80s, going into the 90s.
How old are you?
49.
49, okay. Yeah, I'm 45, so about 4 years.
Right there. Yeah. I'll be getting 50, bro. Man.
50's a new 40. 40's the new 50.
I keep telling myself that. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, this is hurting.
Same here, bro.
I'm like, man, it sucks. It's like, man, Lord, what happened, man?
Yeah, same here. I never thought I'd even think like that, bro.
It flies, though, right? Yeah. It really flies. I think, you know, we're talking about the 80s, man. And it's like, even if we say going back to 90 when you got in the hood, you realize how long ago that was. It's like 34 years ago.
34, yeah.
I mean, it's a long time, but time flies, man. Time flies.
It does.
So you start getting caught up in the neighborhood. How long were you, I would say, gang banging from the neighborhood, doing a bunch of stuff in the streets before you started getting into heavier trouble?
Heavier trouble. Well, I did all the regular in and out, juvenile hall, placements, camps, all that stuff. Fairly young. My first case was, I believe I was like right around there. I actually think I was younger. I wasn't even from the neighborhood when I caught my first case, which I was like probably 11, maybe 89, for stealing a stereo pull-out. Remember the pull-outs?
Yep.
Yeah, and I went to Temple City Sheriff's Station. I believe they let me out. I think they let me out, and then I ended up being on probation, violated probation. Then I started going to the halls.
The halls back in those days, I mean, there's infamous stories about the halls in those days, right? It was like the Gladiator School, right?
We used to go to East Lake, LP too, but more East Lake. So yeah, it was back then. It was cracking. You know, it was definitely just fighting, man. Just, you know, that you're gonna run into the enemies, you know, for sure. And us, we had, you know, the guys from Almani, they were always deep. So we definitely always, you know, it's where you kind of learn how to fight. You know, when you learn how to fight, even fighting blacks, you know, a lot of blacks, they you know, they just have that in them, man. They know how to fight, and you start, you know, getting better, and kind of like you said, it's gladiator school. You come up, you know, and by the time you graduate, you already kind of have that, you know.
There's something to be said that when guys get busted, you know, a lot of guys tell the story of I wasn't afraid, or I walked in there and da-da-da-da-da.
Nah, as a kid, there's definitely fear, especially the first time.
Because I think that's important to talk about.
I cried the first time. I'm not going to front. Like, I didn't cry openly, but I was like, you know, I wanted my mom, you know?
You know what? That's important to say. Yeah. Because a lot of people glorify, you know, oh, I was in gladiator school and we walked da-da-da-da-da. And sometimes it's like, it's not really all like I don't care if you talk about that stuff. Like maybe you could fight, but like you said, you were crying. You wanted to go. You wanted to go home. That wasn't for you. At least you thought it wasn't for you. But
once you lose that freedom, it's like like it hits you. You know? Yeah. Once you're there and you kind of just I was watching what's the brother's name? Jared.
Yeah,
Jared Nava.
Jared Nava.
And kind of like him, like you learn to adapt. But definitely there's that element where, I mean, I would say the majority. There might be one or two where they're kind of they don't feel that, but I say it's a natural, emotion you feel, fear, but you got to get rid of that right away. It's not like I didn't stay there, it was just the initial shock, and then you gotta psych yourself out. You gotta, because you about to, you gotta represent. You gotta represent yourself. You can't be a punk. You can't do none of that. Me, I was always a small guy. So I had to do extra, make myself, because I was small. So, there's a lot, man. There's a lot that comes with it. But definitely, yeah, that little fear element's there. And you got to get rid of it, though. You got to get rid of it and move on and just adapt.
So you adapted to jail life in and out. What is your family saying, or what is your mother saying at this time?
They hated it. She didn't like it, Well, my mom was faithful, man. She was always there. My mom passed away in 2020, but I definitely had a lot of regrets putting her through all that. I was like the worst, like out of the whole family. So I definitely put her through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. Just her going, like I said, she was faithful and always visiting me, but looking back now, I'm like, man, like it's tough, It's tough on a parent having to go and see their child in there. Like I couldn't even imagine bearing that kind of pain, seeing one of my kids in there. Like it'd be rough. So of course they didn't like it, and I would get out, everybody be happy, and you make these promises, I'm gonna do good, but the hood is once you're there. Like I use the word whirlwind earlier, where it's just you just get sucked right back into that. There's no choice. You either have to move out far, and even still it's in you, right? Like they say, you can move out the hood, but you can't move it out of from within. But it's not easy to do good, if you're in that same environment. So that's what it was, just in and out. So until I started doing little stretches, I think as a juvenile, I did from 91 to 94, 3 years, I ended up out there in Nevada in a little boot camp type setting called a ROP. Shout out to ROP, man. I learned a lot of stuff there. It was like a lot of discipline, a lot of exercise. It was like a little junior military. 3-mile runs every day, just staying fit, working out. But that was the first time I ran into Northerners from up north. So the whole gangbang element kind of went to a whole different direction over there, because now we're fighting Northerners.
Was that a little bit of a shock for you? Because in juvenile, you're just fighting other neighbors, your rivals, and now this is stepping up to
it was a trip.
Another level.
To me, it was like a whole nother world. It was a trip, just seeing not just Northerners like Mexicans, but just people not from LA. It was just a trip, like
a little bit different.
Yeah, you could tell everybody, even the dudes from like San Diego, Orange County. Everybody has their own different little way of being, and you could tell who's from LA and who's not, So, but yeah, the up north aspect of it was really, it was like a shock, it was a shock, but it was fun too, because we unite.
Right, I was gonna say, now you're with your enemy.
Yeah,
now you're with them to fight somebody else.
Yeah, now we're united and we're fighting them, and it was a trip, man. It was a trip, but I'm definitely grateful for that time in my life, because like I said, I learned a lot. I believe I learned a lot of discipline, things that were in me that I didn't know I can, because they'll push you to the limit. They'll push you straight to the limit. I got good at running. Before, when I first started, I wasn't trying to run no 3 miles. I'm walking, and I'm getting in trouble. They're sending me a place called Specials, where you got to work your way back to the camp. And finally, I started running, and I got good at it. I think my best time was 16:15 52, 54, something like that. And that's a good 3
It's a
miles.
good time.
Yeah, so
It's a real good time.
I fell in love with it, with running. You know, just it's like can't explain it. Like it's like a high kind of, and you're you know. So a lot of that it brought a lot out of me. You know, as a kid, it definitely had a big impact on me.
I think when you get tested like that, man, when you, in a different way, right? You probably got tested in the neighborhood, got tested in the street, juvie. You get tested like how far can I push my body, or how disciplined can I really be? I think there's a feeling inside that you can't explain. Like, I accomplished this. Like, I thought I couldn't do it, and now I did it.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, that you definitely like tested and you're pushed to the limit. And a lot of the staff that were there, they were a lot of them were ex-military, so you're picking up game. You know, you're picking up game from them. They talk to you. They were good dudes, you know, good dudes. Obviously, when you're getting in fights and all that, they're letting you have it, you know. It was crazy. They'll slam you like it was and you're in the middle of nowhere. We were in the desert, like it was called Schurz, Nevada. It's like if you look it up on Google Maps, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
And there's no running. Like, you can't AWOL. They'll let you, you know.
Yeah.
If you try,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You're gonna get ate by a coyote. You're gonna dehydrate, you know. So, but it was cool, man. With those staff, because they teach you a lot. You know, they teach you a lot about life. So, in many ways, it's good. You know, and then
you think those are good things for youth that are getting in trouble?
Yeah,
maybe they don't soak it all in at that time, you know.
Yeah.
But later on,
exactly.
maybe when they grow up a little bit and if they make it.
In hindsight, when I look back, I'm like, okay, I see how that had an impact on me. Like, because I was like, I had a YA commitment where you sign, and if you don't make it there, you go to YA. So I skipped YA because I ended up AWOLing. It's a 3-level program. I got to the last level, and I ended up going on a home pass. And you grew up in Pico, you said? Or
Bell, Cudahy.
Bell, okay.
Yeah.
So I went to, we were over there at Tommy's on Whittier.
Yeah.
And, you know, back then was the cruising days, and one of my homeboys got killed. This was in 94. And I was on a home pass. And I didn't make it back to catch my plane right here in Ontario to go back to Oakland. And so they were going to regress me. It's called regress. They were going to regress me back to the desert, back to Schurz. And I wasn't having it. I heard them talking about it like 2, 3 in the morning. So I told my girl, she was like my high school sweetheart. And we planned it. She came. I dropped my bags into her trunk. It was a 2-story. She came late at night. And then I went to school. I was going to high school out there. And after like, I think first, second period during our break, she was waiting for me in her car. I jumped in. And she drove me to the Greyhound station in I think it was in Modesto, and I missed my Greyhound. Well, and then she ended up driving me all the way back to Rosemead. But yeah, that's how I ended up out of that place. But I was 16, and the next time I got arrested, pulled over, I gave a fake name. And so if I would have gave my real name, I would have went straight to YA. But my homies were like, give a fake name, so I could go with them to the county. And so I went to the county at 16, you know? 16.
At 16 years old. Which, you had to be 18, right, to get there?
Yeah, you got to be 18, yeah. But that was another thing I'm actually grateful for, because I picked up a lot of that game early, you know? I picked up a lot of it early, and it definitely had a big impact. The county was something else, man. That was like, it's like a whole other world in there, too. You're in a whole nother dimension in there, you know. It's like a jungle. Well, back then, it's still the way county's county, but back then, you still had money. You still had you could have shoes, and the reason that's important is because we used to get in a lot of drugs through there, you know. So there was drugs everywhere. It was like the streets, but now you're just in a confined place, and it was crazy, you know. And I was 16, so that was a whole nother. At first, even though I had already went through all that juvenile stuff, the element tries creeping again. You know, the whole little fear, like, whoa, because everybody's bigger. Back then, it seemed like everybody had brochas and they look different than they do now, you know?
20 years old and look like grown men,
yeah.
you know? It's just...
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So that's how it was, you know, but I got laced up pretty young, you know, and that's why I'm grateful for it. That era, kind of like the way we were talking about how that era that we grew up in was foundational. It was a time, a foundational time. Same thing in the county, to where I picked up a lot of that, and it went along with me in my career, because it ended up being a career for me. You know, being in those places. You know, prison. I went to prison at 17.
It's crazy because it looks like your life was always, you were always younger.
Yeah.
And like you said, you were always smaller.
I was always
smaller,
yeah.
younger, but you were always influenced. Like everybody was like 3-4 years ahead of you, and you were right there with them.
Yeah, I was right there with them. Yeah, I was picking it. I was always a little homie that everybody kind of like
gravitated to.
You know, yeah, kind of not take me under their wing, but kind of like, hey, you know, and that's why I say I'm grateful. I'm grateful for a lot of that. There's a lot of homies that I think back and I'm like, wow, I wonder where that guy's at. Like, he really, you know, put me up on a lot of stuff, and a lot of it helps you to survive, because it's about survival in there. You know, a lot of mind games, a lot of stuff. You know, a lot of things you can't even put into words. So it definitely helped me in my, like I said, career, going into prison, in and out. You know, I went to prison in 95. I was 17.
17 years old?
Yeah.
What was your crime?
My crime was, what was my crime? My first crime was, I believe, was a robbery, and I believe they dropped it down to a grand theft person. And it was only a couple years. I got a couple years. But I right away started getting in trouble. Right in reception, went to the hole, you know, started getting in trouble in the hole, ended up in the, you know, the highest level, level 4 in Calipat. And
did you just not care?
You're kind of like, at that age, you're like a knucklehead. You don't really care. Yeah, you don't really care, and there's a part of you like you wanna like just be. You don't do it for that. It's just kind of in you. You know, it's kind of already in you. But you know, if there's something that needs to be done, you wanna. You know, I was the type like, let's do it. You know, let's do it. And that, you know, that kind of pushed me up. But I'm actually, once again, I'm grateful for that too, because I ended up in a place where early on I was laced up. You know, level 4. I seen a lot of stuff. And that prepared me for the rest, you know, the rest of my prison time. So, and that's just reflecting back, you know, I at the time, you don't really see it like that. But now when I look back, I'm like, wow, like, it's a trip, man. You know, I couldn't imagine like someone, like one of my family members or anybody young my age going through that, you know? Right.
It's a trip. Where was your brother at this time?
My brother, he went to prison too, but he wasn't like me. I was a little bit more of a knucklehead. You know, he had his little run, but he stayed out for the most part. He was out more than me. I was the one that was always in and out. But he was there. You know, he went to prison. He went to prison for attempted murder, and they ended up dropping it to, I don't know, some type of battery or something, and he ended up only getting like 4 or 5 years, and he got out, and I think he only went to prison like twice, and then that was it. But yeah, I was the more, you know, just right back when you get out, right back in the neighborhood, you know, it's first day type of thing. Like, you just can't wait to get out, you know. And now when you get out, you have more of a
status.
Yeah, and you kind of have that little, you know, and so that plays a role. And then me, my thing was guns. You know, I had a lot of cases with guns. I always, you know, had to have a gun on me. I mean, it was those days you had to, you know.
It's 90s, right?
90s.
It was a different.
90s,
It was different. It was probably the worst time in
probably
LA
the worst
gangs.
time in gang banging history, you know. So that's one of the reasons that I would end up going back. Like almost every case that I got busted for, there was a gun involved, you know. So, yeah, that was it, bro. In and out, all the way. I spent more time in jail than I did actually living out, you know.
So were you institutionalized by the time you were 17? You were just used to that lifestyle?
Pretty much. I was already, I wouldn't say yet I was completely to where, fast forward 10 years, by then, yeah, you're already, because you're in and out, prison. But yeah, I was already used to it. It was already something that you're already used to. And but yeah, the more time you spend in there, the more that becomes more your reality. And so when you're out in the street, a lot of that stays with you. And you're kind of programming with that kind of, you know, influence, or that, I don't know what to call it, but yeah, I was definitely institutionalized. I've been out, I haven't been to jail in 10 years, and I believe I'm still shaking some of that, where some of that is still like crowds, you know, even at church. Like when I first started going to church, like there's something about being in crowds where there's like a switch that goes on, and you're just aware. You're aware. You're seeing who's who. You're you know, seeing who makes eye contact with you, or a certain type of individual. Like you kind of keep your eye on certain people, like stuff like that.
Just out of habit, right?
Out of habit, yeah.
Or maybe even some. They probably would call it PTSD, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've talked about this before, yeah, on other platforms. For sure, that's there. The PTSD, isolation, it does something to you. I spent a lot of time isolated as well, not just in jail, but jail within jail, in the hole, and that it does something to your mind. You don't. I wouldn't know it then, but looking back now, it's like, whoa, like I can still feel it. Like I suffered with anxiety a lot. Thank God, you know, thanks be to God that it still tries to creep up, but definitely the depression, and a whole bunch of other stuff that probably you can't even put a name to, that's there, but the Lord is really what gets me through. I couldn't imagine not having the Lord, not having that outlet for prayer, for worshiping God, the Word of God. You know, the Word of God does something in you. It's alive, and it transforms you, or renews you. So without that, who knows how I'd be.
I think the isolation, you know, it's crazy when I think most people just think, oh yeah, he's walking the yard today, or he has friends in there. He's isolated for a day or two. But we're talking about isolation for
months, years,
right?
Years. Oh. Yeah, I spent years in the hole.
And, and the only contact you have is what?
Just your Sally, and there's no what would you call it, like touching?
Yeah.
You know, maybe just with your Sally, maybe shaking his hand or something, but he's your Sally. You're not gonna be touching him, you know. So, like,
hopefully not.
Yeah. Nowadays, maybe that. Hey. You know, who knows, right? But we're
talking about the 90s. This is what we're talking about nowadays.
We're talking about 2020s, right?
Leave that alone.
Yeah. So it would be like let me describe the whole. It's prison. You go back then. We would have cages where it's just you and your Sally, and then they're like kennels, like dog kennels, and they're just lined up in a row. So there's that's the only interaction, you know. And then on the tiers
for only like a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
a day,
an hour,
right?
2 hours, couple hours, yeah. And so, but there's a lot of discipline that comes with us, our people, you know, Mexicans, Southern Mexicans, where we kind of hold each other to a certain standard, which is good, you know. Working out, you know, reading, a lot of reading, you know,
staying occupied.
Yeah,
right?
Making sure your mind, because you could. I literally have seen dudes go crazy from one day to the next, like literally, bro, like from one day, and I'm talking about good, righteous, solid homies, where they just lost it. They lost it, and you try to bring them back, bro. Like, hey, you know, and they're gone. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a trip, man.
To see people like literally go out of their mind.
Yeah.
In the night, you're like, no, but literally you've seen that.
Because you don't know what's going on inside of another individual. I know what's going on within me, so I could imagine, you know, I could only imagine what someone else is going through. Like, thank God I still had people that loved me. I always had, you know, a female, you know what I'm saying? Like, different females that you develop relationships with. So that kind of keeps you, I don't know.
Occupied, right?
Yeah.
Just something
to do. But
there's
other people that don't have that. They may have lost their mom. You know, they may have lost a loved one. You know, their girl might have left them. I went through that too, you know what I mean? But that takes a toll, bro. That really, I think back to, well, we'll probably get to one of the times where I spent, you know, some quite a number of years in LA County Jail and losing the just that relationship type thing where it just, they get tired and that you develop that bond, I guess. Yeah, it's a little bit different from being out, right? A relationship between a man and woman. In there, it's more like an emotional, mental thing. And so when you lose that, if you're not strong, it can really mess you up. You know, most guys be like, yeah. And I did have part of that with me. Like, you gotta be careful, like, because from one perspective, it's like, hey, they gotta do what they gotta do. They're out there, you know. But from another one, it's like when you love someone or you have that, those feelings, it's like, like.
I'm sure you have females that you get things from, and then you have a female that you really. Hopefully, she's waiting for you when you get out.
Yeah, you want to have someone on the team taking care of you, and that whole thing, you know.
Taking your calls,
you know, packages, visits, all that.
Right. So if we fast forward just a little bit, I don't know how much we're going to fast forward because I don't know the timeline, but you are had a unique case.
Yes.
Had a unique case. Can you? How old were you when this started going down, and what was the circumstances of this case and how you got out of that?
So I'll start a couple years earlier before that because it kind of links. So right around 2003, I got out, and this was a time where I wanted to really do good. I had been promising my mom. My mom was sick throughout the years, and I had been promising my mom, I'm going to do good. And
this is like 13 years of gangbanging.
Yeah, probably more, bro. More, because remember I started like 87.
Wow.
So probably like 16 years around there already.
You're getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Been in trouble, in and out. And so 2003, I moved to Rancho Cucamonga, and but I had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I would always go to the hood, stuff like that. But I started driving buses. I went and I applied. Actually, I lived in Pomona. I was with a girl that I lived there with, some girl, and we split up because of her work she used to do. She was a dancer. Okay.
And I didn't, you know, I started kind of having feelings
like
for
folklorical
her.
Or like folklorical or
no. Yeah. Yeah, no, I wish not. It was you know, it was I used the good word, right?
Okay, got you.
And I started kind of having feelings towards her, and I had to just leave it. You know, I left, and I needed work, and I looked on remember the penny savers?
Yep.
Looked in the penny saver, and I seen that they needed drivers.
I used to look for jobs in the penny saver too, bro.
And I seen drivers. I like driving, so I went and I applied, bro. I had Foothill Transit in Pomona, and I remember talking to the guy, and I told him, look, man, I'm gonna be straight out with you. Obviously, you could probably tell. I already had tattoos on my head, all that, and I'm like, look, you know, know, I'm an ex-gang, I'm not an ex-gang member, but I don't know what I told him, something like that, right? Like trying to clean it up. But I need an opportunity, you know. I need an opportunity, and I'm a good worker, you know. I need an opportunity. And he was like, you know what? He goes, just because you said that, I'm gonna hire you. He goes, I'm an ex-gang member from, I think he was from Riverside, Casablanca, somewhere over there. And I couldn't tell. He looked like straight corporate dude, you know. And he goes, I'm gonna hire you, man. I feel something about you, this and that. And boom, I started training, driving buses. And that's when I was living, I moved with my mom in a rancho right off of Baseline in Hellman. And then I started gravitating more towards the neighborhood on and off. And I left the job, bro.
Wow.
I left the job. There was a lot of things. Drugs started coming into play. And I was never like that, like on drugs, like a lot of people, thank God, because I was in and out a lot. But there was definitely that element. I started kind of dibbling and dabbling. I was doing a lot of overtime. And so I didn't want to be like that, bro. Working, you know. So I left the job and I went back to the neighborhood. And I just went full force, bro.
Wow,
I went full force. That time, that era, that little year that I was out it was like a flashback back to the early 90s. That's how kind of crazy it was. And I ended up going on a high-speed chase. It was on my birthday. A lot of things happened on my birthday.
That's what I was going to say right now.
Yeah, on my birthday, bro, 2003, I went on a high-speed chase. I was in Alhambra, borderline El Sereno, going towards El Sereno. My brother owned a home there, and we were staying there for a little bit, right by Cal State LA. And I remember the cop getting behind us, and my homeboy was supposed to get off and run. And there was really nowhere to run, you know. But I was like, "What's up? You gonna go?" You know, and I kind of hesitated, and I just stepped on it, bro. And I jumped on the 710 right where it starts, and I lost them, bro. I lost them. I got off on Fremont right behind that 7-Eleven.
Yep.
Boom, jumped out right there. We jumped out running, and we got away. And me and my little homie were hiding in the backyard. He's actually a director out there in VO Baldwin Park now. Shout out to my homie Trippy Adrian. We got away, bro. My other homie, he got busted right away. And we were in the backyard, and they were looking for us. They had the choppers, broad daylight, early morning actually. And we were up to no good, bro. Early in the morning, just up to no good, you know. And some lady, I guess the lady that we were in her yard, she seen us like hiding, and she called them, and they gaffled us up. But that ended up being a blessing in disguise, man, because I think if I would have stayed out there during that time, I probably wouldn't be here right now. And so I ended up getting 32 months with 80 for the felony evading and possession of a firearm. And then I caught another case in Centinela. I went to Centinela, caught another case for a weapon. And I went to the hole. That's when I ended up in the hole for like over a year. And then I went back to level 4 to Tehachapi. And I ended up in Corcoran. And then I got out January 1st of 2008. So January 1st of 2008, I paroled. It was a surprise parole. They cracked my door open. We were on lockdown. We were in New Corcoran in a SAT-F C yard. And I remember, bro, they cracked my door open. And they go, I was under an alias. They said Gonzalez. That was my name, George Gonzalez. They're like, Gonzalez, release. I was like, what? I was like, release? Like me? They're like, yeah, you want to go home, right? And I was like, check, yeah. So I went, just threw on some sweats, and I told my cellie, everything's yours, bro. You know, I just grabbed a couple letters, pictures, and I was gone, you know, gone. I jumped. I think they put me on a train. I went on a train, and then I went I ended up like on a Greyhound type bus.
And you didn't know why?
I knew that I had some time that I was waiting, because when I was in Tehachapi, they snatched up probably 30 of us homies someone dropped the kite saying that we were trying to kill one of the COs, and so they got us, a bunch of us, you know, that they thought that were involved, and they took us all to the hole. And so I picked up time, but I ended up getting that time back because they couldn't prove nothing.
Right.
So they just scattered us all to different prisons. New Folsom, Pelican Bay, all these different prisons. I was supposed to go to High Desert. I was endorsed to go to High Desert. That was another thing that ended up being a blessing. And when I left that day, that morning, my box said Sat F, which is Corcoran. It's still a level 4, but it's closer to home. And I had some people up there in High Desert that I had some personal issues with some people that were up there, and I'm pretty sure I would have got into some stuff. I would have probably picked up more time. So that's why I say it was like a blessing. I ended up going to Corcoran, and I paroled from there. But that's how it happened. I didn't know when my release date was, and I guess they gave me that time back, and they just cracked my door open that day, January 1st. I have a lot of these things happen on holidays or my birthday. Times when I get out,
right,
or I get busted. So I get out January 1st, 2008, and I move in with my sister in Rancho Cucamonga. She lived over there off of, what was the street? I'm trying to remember. It was off of Hermosa. I can't remember the street, but I moved in with her. But my parole office was in El Monte, and they were trying to force me. They didn't want me living out of the county, and I'm like, man, I'm trying to stay out. Like, you guys want me to go back into that same environment? I said, I got nobody out there. I lied. My mom still had the place in Rosemead, but I didn't want to be there. You know, I wanted to
get caught up again.
Yeah, I'm gonna get caught up again, and I had a 602. There's something called a 602 where you appeal. It's like you appeal, and I appealed Sacramento, and I wrote. You know, I'm pretty good at writing. You know, and that's like my thing. And I put together this good 602, and I sent it up. And they had no choice, bro. Like, the way I put it, they had no choice but to grant it. They granted it, so I moved my parole to San Bernardino County, which is out of Ontario, right there on Holt. I don't think it's there no more. But so I move in with my sister, but I'm still going back to the hood here and there. Not like gangbanging, but kicking it with the homies, right. You know, and then going back and I'm going back and forth. And here's where there was this is where it all started with this case. I was at Ontario Mills, and I see a couple of my homies that were there.
See, that's why I don't go to the mills, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, I seen a couple of homies that were there, bro. And it surprised me because, you know, it's far from where I'm from. And I remember him telling me, he's like, hey, your name's floating around the neighborhood. You know, there's this case, and they're saying that everybody involved in this case is telling, you know. And I was like, what? I was like, my name's involved. Like, yeah, your name's involved. Like, oh. So I was like, I went right back. Actually, that's the first day I went back. I hadn't went to the neighborhood prior to that. That's how I ended up back in the neighborhood.
The old adage, man. You try to get out and they always pull you back.
Yeah,
in.
That's what pulled me back. Now that I remember, that's what. As soon as he told me that, I went straight back, showed my face. I went to, you know, go talk to whoever I needed to talk to. Like, I'm here, man. There ain't none of that going on here, you know. And so because of that, it's a pride thing. It made me kind of just stay around, bro. Like just kind of stay and showing my face, showing that I'm not doing that.
Right.
Because the other people that were involved, they were, you know, they were going that route.
In other words, you didn't have nothing to hide. I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember it was February 13th. I'm at my homie's house. Shout out to my homie Brent Moreno. We were in Whittier, and I remember my sister calling me all scared, like, hey, they just came. They raided the house in Rancho Cucamonga. They raided the house looking for me.
Oh.
And she's like, man, they came in here crazy, and your PO's mad. And I'm like, what? I I didn't do nothing wrong. Like, I'm allowed to not be home. You know, he was all mad because I wasn't there. I'm like, I'm allowed to not be home. Like, you know, I'll go see him. And she's like, they're looking for you. They're looking for you. He seemed real serious. And so I put two and two together. They came to look for me for that case. So I remember my homie, now that he reminded me, like recently, I think this last year, it was a crucial conversation I had with him. Because he had been in that situation before. He was busted for a murder in 96, I believe, 97. He got out. And I remember, I was like, damn, bro, like, what should I do? You know, like, should I go on the run? You know, I had to make a choice, bro. Like, I didn't know what to do. So,
was it based off of somebody from your neighborhood telling on you?
I didn't know yet. I didn't know what was going on. All I knew is that
they're just after you.
Is that this case, it was a 10-year-old murder that happened in 1998. It was one of my older homeboys that got killed right there in Rosemead. It wasn't like an enemy or not. It was someone from my neighborhood.
So 10 years after the fact.
10 years after the fact. But I didn't know the circumstances. I didn't know nothing. I just knew the so-called people that their names were involved, right? Right. And so they had one of the main things is they had. Remember, I sent you an article.
Yeah.
So we probably won't get into none of that, but I'll just share a little bit. I had a homie that was in Pelican Bay. He was there for years. My older homie. He passed away in the county jail in 2013. But at the time, I believe they didn't want him to get out. And they considered him like, a special guy that they wanted to keep their they didn't want him to get out. And anybody that knows my case, they know what I'm talking about. But they took him to the county, and then I had someone else that was living in Ohio, in Salem, Ohio, another person that was supposedly involved, in the case. And they seen him, and they questioned him. At first, he didn't cooperate, and then he ended up cooperating. So he mentioned my name.
Kind of sketchy, right? I mean, if he's living in Ohio.
Yeah. But his name was kind of, he had some issues that he got away from the neighborhood. He wasn't really welcomed. So he was out there.
Right.
I guess, like, hiding out.
Yeah.
And so he mentioned my name. And then another guy that had already pled guilty to this homicide, he was already in custody for this. He was already doing time for this. He was in Calapat, I believe. So the detectives, they went to go question him. And that day, he went into protective custody. He cooperated. He threw my name in there. And so my name was already up in there. I didn't know none of this at the time.
Do you think So you weren't the main person that the authorities were trying to...
I kind of was.
But you got mixed up in that?
Well, they had me as the main shooter.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't... I believe the main one they wanted was my older homie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was one of...
So they were willing to do whatever it took.
Yeah. So what happened was I'm having this conversation with my homie, Brent, and he had already been through this. I had never really been through that. I've been in and out, but I had never been busted for nothing like that. And I'm like, what should I do, And I remember he shared a story with me. I was already kind of a believer, but not necessarily a biblical believer. I was more kind of like a new ager. I used to mix it all up. I believed in a lot of stuff, a lot of fake philosophies and stuff like that. But the Lord was already calling me from back then, bro, from like 2003. So that time that I did those 4 years, I would read a lot of books, Christian books, stuff like that. So I knew that something was going on. Something was definitely happening within me. And I remember he shared a story with me where he was looking up, and I think he prayed. He said he prayed. I might mess up the story, so forgive me if I do, if he watches this. But I remember it was something along the lines of, show me a sign or something if you're going to get me out. And I think he's seen like a shooting star or something like that happened. Some supernatural thing, in his eyes. And he ended up getting out. I picked him up from the county that day. When he got out, I'm one of the ones that picked him up. And so he told me, he goes, I think you're good. Like, just, just go, bro. Like, just go, go see your PO or whatever. And so I did. I went back. I remember it was February 13th because, remember I told you holidays. I went to go see him February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2008. I go to the Ontario parole office, and I walk in there, and I remember one of the girls, the secretaries, she was kind of giving me she was like a young girl, and she was kind of giving me like a look, like kind of trying to warn me, like, like that look, but she couldn't say nothing. I didn't catch it, bro. I was like, but I noticed something, bro. I'm like, what? And I went in, bro. I walked in, and I walked into a room full of just homicide detectives, sheriffs, the gang unit with the green jackets. They're waiting, bro. My pro officer, the main parole guy from that office. And they sat me down, table, kind of just like this. And, I didn't have nothing to say, bro. They tried to question me. I was like, I don't got nothing to, tell you guys. They try to scare me. They say, oh, you got a green light on your life and this and that. I'm like, what's that? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about, and so they slapped the cuffs on me, bro. Well, they offered me my freedom, bro. They offered me, they really wanted my older homie. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you something that I don't know. Like, they were trying to force me, like, and they were like, look, man, if you, cooperate, you're going to walk right out of here, and I'm like, I don't got nothing to tell you, And so, all right, you're under arrest for the murder of whoop-de-whoop, and I spent the next...
when they told you that, were you tripping out? Like, what? Yeah. Like, that's old.
Yeah, I was, of course, I was tripping, bro. But, I wasn't, like, really showing it. I mean, I was in a way, but I wasn't really, like, I was calm. I was calm. I had already been interrogated a bunch of times for
you knew the game
for stuff. Yeah, they actually went to go try to question me for this same case in prison. They pulled me out. I remember a couple of times when I was in Delano on the main line. I remember they called me for visit, and the visit ended up being the homicide detectives, and they tried to question me. They showed me pictures. Once again, I have nothing for them, and so I spent the next 5 years in the county fighting this case. And
5 years in the county fighting this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I represented myself too, bro. For 3.5 years, I was pro per.
Okay, so those are two things that I think are pretty much unheard of. 5 years in the county, fighting a case, and 3.5 years representing yourself.
Yes.
How did you end up representing yourself?
So initially, it wasn't by choice. I was going to Pasadena court. That's where the case was out of. And my first attorney, he didn't even show up to the first court date. So my mom, she got some money from my older brother. My older brother, he's well off, and he gave her some money. We got an attorney, but he only gave her so much. These attorneys, they want to keep getting paid. And so everything was going good with her. And then from one day to the next, she switched up on me. Her whole demeanor switched up. Like I picked up on it. And I was like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh, no. Like, but right away I was like, I seen it, bro. And I'm like, you need to tell me the truth, man. My life's on the line. If you can't continue because of money, whatever, just, you could back on up. I'll even if I have to represent myself, don't worry. But I'm not trying to go into this if you're not gonna, defend me, to the fullest. And she didn't. She told me, but she told me without telling me, because lawyers, they're not allowed to do that. She's not allowed to say, well, but I picked up on it, so I was like, you know what? You're relieved of your duties. And then I went pro per. It was right before my preliminary hearing.
Did you just say, I don't have a choice? You know, I'm not going to get no public defender or anything like that. It's going to be worse, so I might as well represent myself.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a stall tactic as well on my part. And I wanted to know the intricacies of my case. I didn't really know too much, like everything. I wanted to see what the lawyers have, the discovery. And they try to rush me into my preliminary hearing at Pasadena court. And so when I went pro per, I asked the judge for more time, and she didn't want to give me the time. She's like, no, she goes, you want to be pro per? You want to represent? Because they try to dissuade you as much as can. They hate defendants to go pro per.
Because most of the time they're just wasting the court's time, right?
They think. I mean, not all the time.
Yeah.
There are some guys that,
there's guys that study.
And I did. I became that guy. But at the time, I didn't know nothing, bro. I was green as could be. Like, I didn't know nothing. And I needed time, bro, to prepare. I didn't know, I didn't have nothing in my hands, bro. I had no discovery, no nothing. So she tried to rush me in. And I'm like, Your Honor, I'm not prepared for this hearing. She's like, well, I warned you, you want to be pro per. You need to know what you're doing, this and that. I didn't know how to file a motion. I didn't know nothing, bro. So I had to relinquish my pro per status. And they gave me this straight truck, bro. His name's Bismo. James Bisno. And this dude was horrible, bro. We went into my preliminary hearing, and he was like,
sounds like some TV lawyer, man, on some show or something,
bro. And
right?
his look, like he looked like a mixture of like Kramer. Remember Kramer from Seinfeld? He looked like him, like a mixture of him and like Seppiin, bro. That he looked like funny, bro. He had this funny look, and he had this evil smile, bro. Like,
you're like, no, man.
Yeah, like just looking at him, talking to him, I was like, I didn't trust that dude for nothing, bro. And based on the questions I would ask him, like he would like just put me off, and I'm like, hey, bro, you're working for me. Oh, don't worry about it. I got it. Like, nah. I need to be involved in my defense. I'm not gonna let you just, do whatever you want to do. I need to be involved in my defense. So we right away, bro. We were clashing. Even during the prelim, bro. I'm right there, like, ask him this, and he's like trying to like, shh, be quiet. Like, it was hectic, bro. Man. Yeah, it was hectic.
Life's on the line.
Yeah, my life's on the line, bro. And I'm naturally a fighter, bro. Like I'm that's just me, bro. Like, I can't just sit there, and and so we did the prelim. As soon as we did the prelim, I fired him, bro. I fired him, and they were mad, bro. They were all mad. The judge, she goes, well, he's gonna stay as your standby counsel, because I know you're not gonna go to trial on your own, this and that. So trip out on this, bro. This was the Lord started doing things that. At the time, I didn't see it, but once again, looking back, I see God's hand all over my case. They transferred me from Pasadena court to CCB court, Criminal Courts Building, downtown LA. That ended up being a blessing, bro. Because if I would have stayed in that court, the conviction rate in that court is a lot higher than it is at CCB. The judges, the jury pool, it's a whole nother world over there in Pasadena, right? And so
the court system, man. It's
the court system.
The luck of the draw.
Yeah. So they transferred us because of security issues, because my co-defendant, my older homie, and then they had another, my other co-defendant, he was in high power. He was on keep away from all of us. So for them to get us all into court at the same time, it was a big headache for them.
Big security deal.
They couldn't deal with it. So they, and CCB, they're prepared for that. They know how to deal with that. So they sent us over there. And so that's where I ended up going to trial. But I was I was battling, bro. I was battling in them courts. I learned how to file motions. I started studying. I started getting...
Just from books?
Books. You go to the law library every day. So you go into this room, little small room, bro, with a bunch of like screens, and you start looking up cases. Case law is the key to everything. Case laws. So I started reading. I had a legal runner. My ex girl, she would bring me. They were called legal runners. So I would look up the cases. I would tell her, okay, bring me this, this, and this. She would print them out, and she'd bring me stacks of case law through the visiting. And I would get that, take that back to my cell, and I would study. I'm a reader. I've always been an avid reader since I was a kid. I had a love for reading. So now I'm learning about law, bro.
So the case law, you're studying cases that are similar to your case, reading through them to see what you can say. Hey, look at this.
What I can use to, they're called basically points and. Man, I forgot the name, but basically you find a lot case law. There's errors that happen in these cases, and so you get these supporting case laws to help strengthen your case. Right. So you file motions along with these points and authorities. That's what it's called, points and authorities, along with your motion. And so the judge, they look at these and they see if there's anything that's that corresponds or that basically
it can stick to your case.
Yeah, that's relevant. That's relevant to your case. And then I'm not just reading case law, I'm also reading law books, penal codes, anything I could get my hands on, bro. I just started studying, learning all the terminology. And in there you gotta follow the motions by hand, bro, pencil. And so I focus strictly on that. But I also had to deal with jail. You know, I was on the 2000 floor and there was a lot of stuff happening at that time. And I was, by default, I was involved in a lot of the politics, a lot of stuff, you know. And so, you know, we're having, it was cracking, bro. It was cracking with the blacks, you know, with the other races, even amongst each other. That's how I ended up in a place called 1750, which is high power, which is like the worst you can go to within the LA County jail. Is where everybody's at, all the big dogs, you know. And I ended up there. I was still pro per. I would still go to the law library. So I was just, man. I did a lot of groundwork, bro. And I had a private investigator as well. So that I would send my private investigator on missions to go look at this, go look at that, the crime scene. I sent them here. They said that night that homicide took place, that we ended up at a house in Ontario. So I had them go to Ontario and look up, you know, the address, like go look at just everything, bro, take pictures. And so there's a lot, bro. There was a lot going on within those 5 years up, you know, preparing to go to trial. And so that was a big thing that actually helped me in my case, because I got to dig in to every single point in that case. I knew that case like the back of my hand, bro. Everything.
So most guys don't really know don't know what's going on in their case.
The lawyer has all their stuff. Yeah, they only know surface stuff,
and they're working with. You're talking public defenders.
Yeah, if you got a dump truck, which they call them dump trucks, you know, you're screwed, bro.
Because they're friends, right? With the people that are trying to prosecute you.
It's like wherever you work, you obviously you develop relationships, friendships.
Make a deal.
And that's how it is in these settings where they see themselves every day, in and out, year in, year out, month in. And so they develop these even friendships, you know. And like you said, they probably
go to drinks after court.
All that, bro.
Yeah, right.
You know, even romantic stuff like that happening.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So even judges, bro. Even because a lot of judges are attorneys. So where were we at?
You're fighting your case. You're building a foundation.
Yeah, but I was gonna get to something. I'm studying. Oh yeah, we where a lot of guys, they get railroaded.
Right.
Because they might have a good case, but because of their attorney, I think I heard you mention something like that. It comes down to economics.
Yeah, that was with Jared.
Okay,
I was
with
asking Jared. I was telling him, man. Like,
that's true, bro.
And my brother-in-law's, he grew up in Boyle Heights.
Okay.
He was a public defender for a long time. Now he has his private practice.
And not all,
But he's like,
they're not all like that, bro.
he's like, it comes down to money. Unfortunately, if you have money, you can afford an attorney. You can afford a private investigator. You can afford somebody to help you out and build up your case.
Yeah, and not, in their defense, not all, obviously, public defenders or state appointed are bad. Some of them are good.
What he said is, we just don't have enough time.
You don't have the resources. You don't have the time, the money, the resources.
He has like 40 cases that he was trying to get through and trying to work through, and he's looking at a guy that maybe he's facing 20 years, and they want to offer him 5, and he's like, "Look, man,
take the deal.
Take it." Yeah, because he's like,
that's really what goes on.
Not enough time or resources.
If everybody went to trial in the county jail, the system would go. I was actually plotting something like that. I was thinking of doing something like that, because us, like, homies in there, like I said, we're pretty structured, so we have the ability to communicate. Like, if we want to do something, we can make it happen. We can make sure everybody, every dorm, every module is on the same page.
Right.
So I was trying to find a way out, bro. And I had these ideas to get at everybody. I was gonna run it through whoever it needs to be ran by. And I was like, you know what? Let's every homie, everybody say that we want to go to trial. And I was even thinking of hitting up the blacks and telling all the blacks, everybody that's fighting BK, hey, we're gonna do this. You guys want to jump on this? Let's break down this system. Let's see what I planned on doing that, bro. But I forgot what happened. Things started, they unfolded differently.
The hard part probably be it'd be a long wait.
Yeah,
you would be trying to wait your turn in line, right?
But they wouldn't be able to.
They wouldn't be able to handle it.
They would not be, if everybody went to trial. They would not be able to handle it. There's like 90%, bro, plead. 90% of the cases, they all plead out. So that's what happens, But
even if it was 30% that went to trial.
Yeah,
it would break that.
Yeah, even if it was that many percent, they wouldn't know what to do. Imagine everybody. So imagine, my thought was they're gonna have to start releasing people. A lot of these lower, you know what I mean? And at least it's something like let's do. So I was pretty during those years. I considered myself like a revolutionary type. I was heavily into a lot of that stuff too. A lot of the, Malcolm X, Che Guevara, Black Panthers, all the Black Panthers, Fred Hampton, Aldrich Cleaver, even like Sada Shakur, Geronimo Pratt. I read all those books, bro. Like, Huey Newton. I was heavily influenced by a lot of that, because I seen what it was, bro. The world for what it was, the system, how a lot of people were oppressed, bro. When a lot of those dudes started rising up, they called them terrorists. They were, because they didn't want, they called it a black messiah. And all this is documented in it's all documented. There was a Freedom of Information Act that came out, I believe, I don't know when, and they released a lot of these documents that even Hoover, it was a war declared on all these dudes. Yes. So I was, it wasn't just them either. It was the American Indian movement, AIM, us, the Mexicans.
Unfortunately, we're seeing that now.
Yeah.
Imagine if Freedom of Information Act being released now.
Yeah.
They're going after conservatives,
it's
Christians, anybody that's going to start.
Yep.
Not falling in line.
They probably have us on a list, bro.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're probably highlighted on there too.
Hey, I made it. Don't tell nobody.
So yeah, bro. A lot of that. I was influenced by a lot of that. So my mindset was on that page.
Fight the power.
Yeah. And I was even, there's something called becoming a sovereign, a secured party creditor, where you take back, I don't know if you ever heard of it, you take back over your birth certificate. Because when you're born, you get a social security number. You become part of the system. But there's something called a sovereign where you become your own, you're a flesh and blood human being. But to them, you're like a number, bro. You're a corporation.
That's a trip.
Yeah, even America, that goes deep, bro. I won't get into all that. But there's something that when you do that. I actually did that process. And when you do that, you become your own entity. And now when you go in these courts, you remove yourself from their jurisdiction. And you can actually put a lien on the judge. There's a lot that goes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes with it. You get a private investigator. One of the homies did it. He was busted for shooting some cops. A homie from Southside Montebello, and he did it, bro. I had my judge's address. I had their whole history, bro. I had my DA. I had everybody's stuff in my cell, bro. That they came and did. They came and hit our cells when he did it. He went to court, and he was gonna put a lien on the judge, bro. And guess what happened? They ended up offering him so that this doesn't come out and become something big. They offered him like 6 years, and he jumped on it. And that day they came and they hit all our cells, bro. They took all our stuff. I was trying to get out any way I could, bro.
I've only heard like the sovereign thing with like the Native American.
Same thing. What I mean? It's like the same
right?
thing. It's the same thing. But as a American citizen, there's people. You ever heard of these people? They live like in these what do you call that? Like it's kind of not like a reservation, but it's kind of like a community like that. Like I would say, for example, like the Mormons.
Right.
They have these. It's something like that. But there's a lot of Americans that they have their own land and they have their own communities and they're not part of the system. They don't even have like a license. Anytime you put yourself under their jurisdiction, now you put yourself, you're basically you're held accountable to their governing rules. Right. And so the whole point of it is to remove yourself from that and to say you have no power over me.
That's crazy.
Because what controls a lot of this is maritime law. It goes deep, bro. A lot of the government stuff is actually based on maritime law, which has to do with the sea, with the ocean. It's crazy, bro. There's a lot of stuff. So I started learning a lot of this. I didn't know, Well, they put us up on game. Some dude that was in the feds. He was a black dude that lived right above us in the pro per module, and he laced us up. He was actually doing it, and he's seen in the feds a lot of dudes doing it. So he's the one that put us up on game.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a trip, bro. It was a trip, man.
Hey, it's within the law.
It's within the law, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you go to court.
So I ended up I prepared the case for my attorney. Well, here's what happened. I didn't have an attorney, but while I'm pro per, I knew I couldn't go to trial on my own. So I knew I was gonna need an attorney one way or another. I didn't have money.
You did all the foundational work.
I did the foundational work. So I started. I had faith, and I believed that God was on my side. He put a promise in my heart when I first got busted too. This is when I started becoming a believer, but I was still kind of mixing in with these different belief systems. But I for sure believed in the God of the Bible, in Jesus, And so what happened was I started interviewing. I would call all the main attorneys, all the big dogs, Bill Pittman, Andrew Flyer, Alex Kessel, Garagos.
You didn't call Larry H?
No. That's for like drug drivers or something. But I called all those big names and
Garagos, yeah.
Yeah, Garagos. I interviewed them, bro. They would come visit me because they didn't know I didn't have no money. I pretended like I had money, like I'm trying to hire an attorney. So I was playing the game, and I would ask them questions. I would go out there with my notepad, what would you do, in this situation? How are you going to defend this? Whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. And I would like test them, bro.
I'm impressed, bro.
Yeah. I would test them.
Smart.
And then I felt led by the Lord to go with Alex Kessel. Alex Kessel, actually, he told me for the case I was fighting, it was a high profile case. So for a murder, average it's at least 50,000. But for my case, my case was like on the news. It was all over, you know, mainly because of my co-defendant. And it was a lying in wait. It had special circumstances. They could have filed the death penalty on me because it was a lie in wait. And so, my Alex Kessel, he told me, you know what? He goes, I would normally charge $75,000 for a case like this. He goes, but there's something about you that makes me want to help you. And he was a Jew, bro. And he goes, I'll do your case for $35,000. He said, if you give me, I think he said $5,000 or $7,000. If you can come up with that down payment, you can give me the rest in payment. And
unheard of.
Yeah, unheard of, bro. And so
by a known attorney.
Yes, by a big dog, Alex Kessel. Everybody knows him. And I was praying all that time. I'm praying, bro, and I'm believing the Lord to come through for me. Man. And He came through, bro. Heck yeah. Someone came through with the money for me. Not all of it, but with the down payment, and they agreed to pay it off for me.
Wow.
You know, that was the Lord, bro.
Heck yeah.
The Lord did that for me, and that was a miracle in itself. And so I handed him my case. Everything, all the groundwork that I did, he was like, he said what you said. He was like, man, I'm not trying to stroke my own ego, but he tripped out, bro. Cause that doesn't happen really, you know, like nobody does that.
Yeah, it's like price. Here, call this person. They saw me.
It's probably like 0.1% that does that. You know, there's a lot of blacks, bro. A lot of the black brothers, they're pretty good with law, bro. I learned a lot from a lot of black brothers, homies too, Mexicans too, but a lot of them, they were on that tip too. You know, the whole revolutionary tip. Right. So that really helped me, bro. I handed him everything, and he pretty much was laced up with all of that. And he was a trial lawyer. That's his specialty. He was a straight bulldog, bro. He was the way he was, you would not even notice, bro. When he was in that courtroom, he turned into a whole different person.
Compared to what you had previously, you're probably like, oh, yes, let's do this.
Yeah, old Cepillín. So he was a cool dude, bro. Shout out to Alex Kessel, man. He was a straight blessing, man. We went to trial, and he did his thing, bro. He did his thing. I can't take that from him, bro. But it wasn't in God's plan, bro. At the time, they still found me guilty. I was still convicted of the murder. This was in April 11th of 2012. I was already in 4 years.
Was this a jury trial? Or?
This was a jury trial at CCB.
Well, unanimous?
It was unanimous. They were struggling with it. There was, I believe I heard, my lawyer told me that there was like 2 or 3 that were kind of iffy, and they ended up, there's something called he's like the main juror. He kind of takes control of that, and he pretty much influenced them and talked them into. Man. So boom, guilty verdict comes in April 11th, 2012. And it's a trip, bro. By this time, my faith in Jesus is, I already left a lot of the New Age beliefs. The Lord corrected me because I started reading the Bible. I started learning the truth of God's word, and how a lot of these things are actually things that Satan uses to keep people from the one truth that matters, you know? And so
and coming from a guy, I don't mean to cut you off, coming from a guy that studied case law, I mean, now you're studying the Bible.
I looked at it like that.
Right.
I looked at the Bible as like, I'm the type of dude that I need to know, like I need to make sure that I'm not believing something that's false, bro. You know? And so I started reading up on a lot of this, the history, how the historical evidence, archaeology validates the word of God, bro. Just everything, bro. Secular history, bro. Like it all pans out, bro.
That's a trip, because when people don't believe, I always tell them to read like Lee Strobel. right?
Lee Strobel, that's my boy. I love that dude,
Right.
bro.
And I tell them because I go, he's not a believer, but he was an investigator. And the way he
He
proves,
was actually the opposition. He was opposed.
right. So the way he proves that Christ was real is he looks at it from an investigative standpoint, and his whole thing is to try to prove that he's not.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes through the steps and everything, and it's boom. He proves it.
He went
It's
through
got to be
that.
real.
And I'm heavily into apologetics.
So when you say that, I think of that.
Yeah,
right?
Lee Strobel.
Let's prove the point here.
Yep. William Lane
Apologetics.
Craig, Frank Turek. I'm
Charlie Campbell.
Yeah, I'm into all of
Charlie
those,
Campbell.
bro. What's his name with his son? The guy that wrote I gave Lucky from Hoodstocks the book, Evidence That Demands a Verdict. I forget his name, but awesome apologist. So yeah, bro, I was looking at the Bible from that standpoint of trying to prove it and all that, but it's not only that. The Holy Spirit began to reveal, because it's a spiritual book too. Because you could read it, someone can read it, but the Bible says that the Bible is to be spiritually discerned, and so without the Spirit, you can completely miss what we see in the Word, right? Because the Word of God is alive, and to other people, it's just pages on the book. They think it's just a book. The Bible is not a book. It's a composition of 66 books written from like 1,500 years with 40 different authors, and it all corresponds together. It's all perfect. It's in sync,
intertwined,
bro. Intertwined. Everything's just, and so I began to realize all this, and it strengthened my faith, bro. And then my faith that I was going to get out, standing on the promises that God gave me, it was strong. So when I got convicted, I was able to, I had peace in me, bro. And I was able to have a smile on my face. Driving back from court to the county jail, yeah, there was some tears, bro. I'm not going to front. There were some tears, the guilty verdict. It hit me a little bit, but I felt God's presence with me on that bus. And I was like, I'm in your hands, Lord. Like, I know you got me. He had already demonstrated to me over and over that not only is he real, but that he loves me. That he loves me specifically, not in a general sense, like the scripture, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. That most people take that as a general sense, but no, that's a personal promise, invitation to all, to everybody. And I personalized that. That was a personal promise to me. And I was standing on that. I began to really stand on it, and I thank God, man, that he became real to me, bro. And I developed a relationship with him. And so my wife, she still mentions it sometimes as part of her testimony, where she wasn't my wife then, she wasn't even my girl. But I called her. She was there during my trial, but she was just a friend. I remember calling her that day. And, and I was laughing with her, and she's tripping out, like, how are you laughing? Like, you just got convicted of murder. And I'm like, man, God is good, man. He's going to get me out of this. That ain't nothing. That's just, this is just going to show that it's all him and not me. It doesn't matter all the pro-per stuff. I can't take the credit for none of that. It's all him. He's the one that's going to do it. And sure enough, bro, from that day forward up until, I believe, January. I know of January of 2013. We were preparing a retrial motion. And what that is when you get found guilty in trial, you can file a motion to have a retrial based on whatever circumstances you're going to help support you, right? Mine was insufficient evidence. They had one dude, the dude that was in prison, that was already doing time for that case, saying that I did it. That's it.
What was his benefit, though?
His benefit was
less time.
He was trying to find his way out.
Wow.
At the time, there was no deal like you can get out. But he believed that in the long run, he can probably ask for what do you call that? I forget. I'm looking for the word leniency, that kind of stuff, where
a reduced sentence.
You can, hey, I helped, you know, and this was a big case, like I said. I helped put this guy away. I helped put this guy away, you know. And
that's crazy to me because he was willing to risk it all with nothing guaranteed. I mean, he did risk it all with nothing guaranteed, right?
He's out, bro.
Oh, okay.
It worked for him, you know.
I guess so.
But hey,
whatever.
God bless him, bro. I already forgave him, you know. I forgave him. I prayed for the dude. I probably wouldn't, you know what I mean, hang out with him or nothing like that. But if it wasn't for him, I think back on my life, bro, and I think back, I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through that. I would never met my wife. I met her while I was in jail. I wouldn't have my beautiful kids. I wouldn't be probably here sitting in front of you sharing this testimony. So, yeah, it was a big deal in my life. I definitely suffered a lot, bro. But
you might have not been alive.
I might not have been alive. Who knows how my life? That's a good point. I more than likely wouldn't have been alive because I know the way I was. I know myself, and once again, it's not to puff myself up, but I was all in the hood life, bro. Like that was my whole life. I put that in front of my family, in front of everybody. Even though I loved like my mom, everybody, it's obvious what I chose. You know, I chose the hood above that, bro. So, you know, that's all they had. That's all the evidence they had. So we filed for a retrial. And it took from April to January for the judge to actually hear the motion, to actually look at the motion, look at the supporting case laws and all this, and the penal codes and all this, for her to rule on it. And she was gonna rule on it right around October, November, but then the holidays came, and so she put it off past the holidays. So in January, we go into court. Here's another miracle that happened for me, bro, that I look back on. So we walk into court, and I had an experience. I believe in the gifts of the Spirit because I had an experience when I was there in 1750 in high power, in isolation. I was reading the book of Ephesians, chapter 1. Right when I got to, I believe, verse 3, something came over me. I believe now it was the Holy Spirit. I believe I was baptized in the Spirit. I didn't even know what that was. And I started literally praying, speaking in another language, bro. Like, I didn't know. It was just, and there's a lot of people that don't believe in that. I believe in it because it happened
to you, yeah.
It happened to me. Nobody could tell me different. And I lost all track of time. I didn't know, and I just felt God's presence heavy, bro. Like, it was just, and from that day forward, I've been praying. That's not the only way I pray. I don't believe in doing that openly in front of all. Like, there's a lot of people that kind of take it to the extreme, and I don't believe that's biblical. I believe it says in Corinthians that it edifies you. It's for your edification, and the Lord, He knows what you're saying, you know. And then there is another type where you should have an interpreter if you're going to do it openly in front of a congregation. So there's a way to do it, you know, but I didn't know nothing about that. So I went through that experience. So trip on this, when I go into that court date, that hearing, I'm praying in the Spirit under my breath. And I believe in the power of Scripture, not like in a word of faith type of way, but I do believe that the Word of God is powerful. You get the Word in you, and you speak the Word. There's power. It says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. And so I was quoting the Scripture. I started memorizing Scripture. I would have all these Scriptures on my walls, even while we're busting down doing routine. I would be quoting these Scriptures, and I would have like a page, and I'll have like 7 Scriptures on each page, and I had page all over, bro, all over my cell on both sides. All these Scriptures I got into my heart, and I started standing on those promises, bro. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. You know, Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your mind in Christ Jesus. All these scriptures, bro. I was in spiritual warfare too in that place because there's a lot of evil stuff going on in there. And so I had this scripture, Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. And any tongue that rises up against me in judgment, you shall condemn. For this is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and my righteousness is of you. And I was quoting this scripture under my breath. And when the DA got up to speak, I kid you not, bro, this dude was an articulate dude. He could not speak, bro. Something was literally making him stumble over his words. So much to where the judge said, sit down, have a seat. Like, she straight told him to sit down, bro. And it was amazing, bro. I knew it was the Lord. Like, I don't take credit for that. I know that it was the Lord moving on my behalf. And she goes, in 24 years on the bench, I've never granted a motion for a new trial. She goes, but I have to do it in this case. She granted the new motion, and the murder conviction was removed. It was as if I was never convicted of murder. And I was still incarcerated. From January to March, my attorney found a case law called Hudson versus Louisiana. It's a 1981 case. Some black dude from Louisiana who had similar circumstances. His trial, they made a mistake on his case, and he was granted a new trial. And then they tried to take him back to trial with that same evidence, and that fell under the double jeopardy clause under the United States Constitution. So that played a role in my case, to where they couldn't use the same evidence in my case. They couldn't take me back to trial with that same evidence. It would have been double jeopardy. And so we filed a motion for dismissal with that supporting case law. So that case law was my ticket home. That's what God used to get me home. When we got that motion heard, March 15th, 2013, the judge said, you know what? She made a big speech. I still have all the paperwork. I have everything, bro. And I'm working on a book, bro. I started a book years ago. It's just time and work, ministry, and all this. It's hard to get it in there, bro, you know. But I want to put everything in there. There's a lot of stuff that I won't share here on a platform, but I'm going to put that in the book.
So good, man. I think I sent, you sent me that article, right? And it was more like a law article, right? So I was having a hard time understanding it. So I sent it to my brother-in-law, right? I said, Art, can you break this down for me? So he told me, and I'm like, man. And I go, unheard of? He goes, very rare.
Yeah.
He's like, he goes, very rare, but it's just double jeopardy. Can't try him for the same crime.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, bro. And he was like, that's pretty cool. Cause he's big on what can I find? The legal route, right? What can I find to make?
And there's a lot, bro.
There's a lot of stuff out there, and time, finances, all that plays a role, right?
That plays a role, yeah.
Maybe people are not as articulate, are readers like you were, or somebody willing to put in the work, and then you put in the work, and then boom.
Definitely, yeah. And it was ultimately, it was the Lord. I know it was the Lord, But yeah, he used human means, right?
Right.
And the judge, here's another big one that I didn't mention, and I mentioned it before on other platforms, where the judge that I had, her name was Kathleen Kennedy. If you look her up, she was O.J. Simpson's preliminary hearing judge. So before he went to Lance Ito. Remember Lance Ito?
Yep.
I used to see Lance Ito when I was in her courtroom. She was right next door. I was in 109. Lance Ito was 110. And O.J. got bounded over from her court to Lance Ito. So he had his trial with Lance Ito, but he started off with Kathleen Kennedy. She was supposedly the worst judge in that whole building. And I had got out of another judge, I forgot his name, older black guy. He was violating, I didn't even mention that part because it goes on for, there's so much in between, bro, but he was violating my rights, bro, to litigate my case. I would go in there and I'd be citing case law, lacing the record, and he hated it, bro. he hated my guts, bro. Just looking at me, like, I could see it. Like, he hated someone like me. You know, I'll go in there, ball tattoos. I'm Poppy Law, you know what I mean? And
Playing the game.
Yeah, and you could just see the disgust in his face, like, and he would shut me down. Like, he used to use psychological tactics, bro. They used to work too, bro. I used to get frustrated. I'd walk out of there. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I would walk out of there so mad, I would cry sometimes, bro. Just, like, you know, and then I have to come to the Lord, like, Lord, you know, help me, Lord. Help me through this. The Lord got me through a lot of these times, bro. You know, a lot of, that's why I surrendered to him, bro, because he not only showed me that he loved me, but he proved to me that he was there with me. He was right there with me, bro. You know, and so I ended up I filed a motion to get out of that guy's courtroom, which is another. If you ask your who is it? Your brother?
My brother-in-law.
Ask your brother-in-law, bro. If someone's able to just leave to trade courtrooms, like if they don't like that judge, if they're able to go to another judge, that doesn't happen, bro. That's literally almost impossible unless you can prove some. I was able to prove it, bro. Me, just per with no help, the Lord's help, just the Lord, bro. And I filed a big motion, bro. And I wasn't sure if I should do it because I was like, man, if something else could go wrong, they could put me somewhere weird, like. And I was praying. I remember being in the law library, and I remember praying, Lord, show me that I'm supposed to do this. And there was an earthquake, bro. There was an earthquake right when I was praying, bro. As soon as I was praying, boom, and I was like, what? I'm not saying that it was like he did that just for me, but in my eyes, he did, bro. Like,
I think God just stepped in many times in your life, bro.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's probably tons of other things
so
that you can say. And for a guy that probably, I wouldn't say in a bad way, skeptical, but just wants evidence. Wants, you know, wants to be, just prove it to me then.
Yeah.
And God
Which
says,
I believe is
here, let me prove it to you again and again and again.
I believe that's important, bro. I shout out to a lot of those people that they may be unbelievers. They may be agnostic, where they kind of believe, but they may not be like full blown atheists. So I'm not mad at them. But I believe if they take the time, if there's someone watching right now, if you take the time to really, without a biased mindset, if you just start out neutral and you go and you search it out and you go look at the evidence that is there, like Lee Strobel did, I believe you will come to find the truth, you know, and the truth is there, you know, but the devil's done a good job of
trying to hide it,
of hiding it, of trying to, you know, mix this in there and all these different lies and a lot of this controversy, you know, even a lot of stuff with like the Catholic Church, which they're not really, you know, some of them could be considered a Christian, but for the most part, their belief system, it doesn't fall up under the evangelical, you know, Protestant Christian faith, you know, right. Biblical Christianity, because they believe in a works-based salvation, which isn't biblical. They believe that the Pope is actually God's, he's in place of God. He's God's representative, which is, that's not true, right? But, so the devil's done a good job in kind of, camouflaging all this stuff and creating all these different beliefs, which those things are from the devil. People think that those things are of God. They're not of God. They're actually of the devil, Satan, the liar, the great deceiver, to deceive. It says that the whole world falls under the sway of the devil, you know, the whole world, you know. So yeah, bro, that was pretty much how I ended up being set free on March 15th, 2013. The judge, she did say, Kathleen Kennedy, she did say that she thought I was maybe there or somehow involved, but that by the law, she had to judge rule according to the law, and that she said that the government couldn't prove that I was involved in this case, and they fought it, bro. They fought it. The DA, when I got out, immediately they went to the higher courts and tried to fight it, and so now there's a case law under my name. Yeah, there's a case law under my name.
Somebody's using your case law now, bro.
Exactly, yeah, because they try to fight it, and the higher courts ruled in my favor. They said, no, that judge ruled according exactly how she should have. They couldn't take him back to trial because they couldn't prove it the first time. And that judge would have never granted that motion if it wasn't called for, you know? So
it's crazy how that works because the law could definitely work against you.
Yeah.
But here we got, of course, you had God on your side. But then the law worked for you.
All my life, I was one of those, like, against the law, against the government, against the cops, all that stuff. And against the system, because the system is flawed, bro. There's so many people that never had an opportunity to have a fair trial because of what we were talking about earlier. Mainly finances, you know, economical.
Or they don't know.
A
buddy of mine,
ignorance
at work, 13 years. He had, I think he had life. Mm-hmm. Did 13 years, started studying, fought his case, found that under the 14th Amendment, he has the right to cross-examine his accuser. Mm. They never let his attorney do that.
Yep.
They had to let him free.
Wow. That stuff happens all the time. But
if he didn't know,
look how much time he lost.
13 years.
Look how much time he lost. That kind of stuff should be brought out from the gate.
Right.
But usually it takes all these years. That's another miracle that happened for me, is that when we filed for that retrial, for that motion, you know, I didn't stay in there 20, 25 years for it to be granted. It happened right away. So that was a whole other thing. God had a whole different plan for my life, you know. So I got out, bro. I walked right out of the criminal courts building. My wife was there waiting for me. My sister, my cuñada.
So you had the lady, the one you wanted, waiting for you.
So she was she at that moment, at that point when I got found guilty. Shortly thereafter, she became my girl.
Nice.
So she was there. So she was there when I got out. And we started getting hit right away, bro. The enemy straight tried to destroy me. As soon as I got out, bro. As soon as I got out, I had nowhere else to go. I went back to Rosemead. And my mom, she had just had a open heart surgery at Garfield Medical Center right there in Monterey Park. And I popped up on her. I remember, bro. She never knew I got convicted of murder. And she seen me. She couldn't believe it, bro. It was a beautiful moment, man. You know, seeing my mom and her finally seeing me free. And
so your mom saw you as a changed man.
Yes, that's
awesome. That's
what really blessed my heart, bro. When she left, and the Lord used me to bring her faith in Christ.
Wow.
She was a Catholic all her life. She believed in the Santos. She used to pray to all the Santos. She used to do the promises where they wear like certain things to like do promises to these saints, San Judas, and all this different stuff. She used to even do like the little limpias, and that's witchcraft, you know. But they mix it as they you know, once again, Satan lies, making it seem as something good, but it's actually of the devil, you know. And I had preached the gospel to her prior, but she used to fight me on it, you know, because the tradition is strong, bro.
Oh yeah,
the Mexican tradition with the Catholic it's a stronghold actually that's there, that exists. She would fight me on it, you know, or she would just dismiss it. But one time she was at this what do you call that? It's a recovery after when you get out the hospital, like where old folks
hospice?
Homes. Yeah, no, not hospice. It was like a prior to hospice. It was like a kind of like a convalescent. It was a rehab for her to get back after she had she ended up on life support for some other stuff, and she came back. And I remember sitting down with her and explaining to her the gospel, you know, and presenting it to her and showing her the difference of what the Bible says as opposed to what she's believed. And you know, she didn't understand all the intricacies and all that, but she understood enough to where she placed her faith in Christ. And I seen the difference, bro. I was able to see the difference, you know. So that was my
that was your cherry on top of everything, right?
Because that was my worst fear, is losing my mom when I was busted. You know, because when you're in there, for any youngsters, anybody out there living that life, you you know, that's a big one. You don't see the pain that you're putting, especially your mom or your parents, through. But you can hear it from someone like me. You know, the only ones that are really there, that really love you, is your family. You know, and especially your mom. So you know, consider it, man. Consider it. And even if you've already been doing it, you can change that right now and start showing your mom that you love her, and that, because you never know. You know, you can lose her anytime, any moment. And sometimes we don't know what we have till it's gone, right? We take it for granted. So I would encourage you to learn from someone like me. That's actually wisdom, man, is learning from someone instead of having to learn through your own mistakes. Learn from somebody else so you don't have to go make those same mistakes, you know?
Yeah. A wise man learns from his mistakes. Yes. A wiser man learns from the mistakes of others.
Exactly.
Hey, bro, I appreciate you coming through, man. I mean, I say you write that book, bro.
Yeah, it's in the works, man.
Put that book in order, man. What is Isaac doing now, man? Before we wrap it up, what are you up to now?
Man, there's so much, man. The Lord's been moving in my life. We do also have a YouTube channel called Righteous by Faith. You can just type it in on YouTube, Righteous by Faith. I'm going to get back into a lot of that. It started out in a transition when we left the ministry we were at, where I was telling you off camera, and where we're at now. It was in the middle, and I just had so much in me that I had to get out. So my wife and I created this ministry. The Lord, you know, gave us this ministry, and it's still there. I work with a lot of men. That's actually something I want to mention. The Lord kind of threw this on my lap. You know, I'm involved, you know, in men's ministry, of course, in my church, and you know, different stuff, life group, men's group. But something that I do personally that the Lord has called me to is working with men, even aside from the distance. Thank God for technology, even the phone, Zoom, StreamYard, stuff like that, where I go on these platforms. I've been on a lot of secular platforms like Hoodstocks, American Cholo, Street TV. And
that's Melissa's favorite channels right there, bro.
Yeah, and people have reached out to me because I went on these platforms. So shout out to them, man, especially Hoodstocks, bro.
Yeah.
The Lord used one of my interviews. There's still people calling me. Because I didn't get to share here, but I shared a couple of suicide stories where I almost committed suicide. I almost committed suicide, actually, the day I got arrested. But people have reached out to me. You know, I'll just share two quick testimonies. One brother, he was suicidal, going through it. Marriage, you know, on the rocks. And, you know, I don't take none of the credit. The Lord, he's the one that puts the pieces together. But he led this young gentleman to hit me up. I was able to lead him to the Lord and help him find a church. I sent him a Bible. I love sending people Bibles, the study Bible that I had when I was busted. Because one of the homies, shout out to my boy, a drifter from Arizona, Maravilla. I remember him knocking on my side right there in the Pro Per module, and he stuck out his hand and he put this book in front of me. I wasn't really into the Bible yet. And I was like, what's this? He's like, here, that's yours, bro. My tia sent it to me. He goes, I know you're into all that God stuff, you know, and he goes, you'll probably put it more into you than me. So I grabbed it. I still have that same Bible. That's where God spoke to me from a New King James Nelson Study Bible. And so whenever I make a connection like this, the Lord has put it in me to send these men the same, a more updated, more with maps, nicer version. But I send these Bibles to them, and then I kind of work with them where I'll help them get plugged in somewhere, and still talk to them, try to do some long distance discipleship. And so this is something that it would happen to me throughout the years, but now it's happened so much, it's become a ministry. So this is actually a ministry. Anybody out there, even if it's not you, if you may know of somebody, you guys can find me on Instagram, Righteous by Faith _RIP. Those are my initials. It's not rest in peace. Those are actually my initials. And I also do I do a Christian music, Christian hip hop. I haven't done it for a while, but I'm gonna get back into it. I'm gonna release an album first quarter the second quarter of this year, early second quarter, right around April. I'm shooting for, my wife and I, we do stuff together, kind of the same stuff that I was telling you about, like counseling. So I do a little bit of everything, bro. And this is actually where the Lord uses me, and I love it, bro. I love being able to help somebody. Even the distance doesn't make a difference, man. I've reached out, even a whole family, bro, out there in San Diego, where I was able to lead the entire family, little kids, bro, to the Lord, bro. Another brother out there in Ohio, man. Shout out to my boy Mondo. He was having issues, bro. He lost his family, his kids. He came fully surrendered to the Lord. His faith is growing strong. He's in the Word. His whole life is in God's hands, and he knows that God is moving in his life, man. And so this is what brings me joy, bro. Purpose in my life,
Amazing, bro.
There's a lot more, but wherever the Lord leads. But this is where I'm at now, going on these platforms, sharing. Thank you, bro, for even having me here, bro.
Thank you for coming.
It's a blessing, man. The Lord put it in me to continue to do this. That's why I actually reached out to you, because I never have been on a Christian platform like this. And so the Lord has led me to continue to do that, because there's been fruit from that. So that's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. So
it's awesome, bro. There's fruit. That's what I was going to say right now. There's fruit from your salvation, from you surrendering to God. You can see it, bro. And my pastor's big on that. Is there fruit? Mm-hmm. Is there fruit from it? Yeah. If there's fruit from it, it's good.
Exactly.
We do one last thing, bro, before you head out. It's called the Street Gospel Furious 5.
All right.
We have a little fun with this one right here. We ask you 5 furious questions. Give us some good answers here.
Okay.
Question number 1 on the Street Gospel Furious 5, Mr. Isaac Pedroza. If somebody played you in a movie, who would you pick to play you?
Wow, that's a good one. I've always wanted to do that myself.
Are you gonna play yourself?
Yeah, I that's actually been something that's been marinating for years, where people have hit me up, even like have told me, like, man, you should do this. But if I have to choose someone, an actor, man, I don't know of many. He would have to be Mexican, right?
It can be what?
I don't think it can. It has to be someone, and I can't think of someone. Man, the only guy I could probably think of is Baby Jokes, maybe.
Baby, what's his name?
Baby Jokes. I know him, Baby Joe. I met him like in the county, from 2 and 3, but now he's known as what? What's his name?
The exercise dude, the comedian.
No. Baby Jokes. What's his name? Came out on the Mayans and.
I know who you're talking about now.
With the long hair now, what's his name?
He has the coffee.
He came through. Yeah, he has a coffee. He came through Homeboy Industries.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only.
I know you're talking about.
I can't think of.
That would be good.
Yeah, I can't think of no.
Do you know his name, Liz? I forgot his name.
Cabral. Yeah,
yes.
Richard Cabral. Yeah, that's the only guy I could think of.
Hey, that's a good pick.
Yeah.
I can see that. All right.
Yeah.
Richard Cabral, you need to come on the podcast. Bring some coffee.
Bring them, yeah. Tepito coffee or something.
Yeah, that's what it is. Question number 2 on the Street Gospel Furious 5. What type of music do you listen to?
Right now, it's mainly Christian gospel music.
Okay.
But I stopped listening to a lot of Christian hip hop, but that's pretty much what I listen to. I don't really listen to much secular. Once in a while, like on the way over here, we listen to a little bit of the old disco. Like I said, my son loves it. So but I don't really listen to it. Like, that's not an everyday thing. It's mainly godly music, bro. Gospel music. That's what gets me, gets me going, bro. It gets me going. It inspires me. The Lord speaks to me through it, So
it's good.
Worship music, yeah.
All right. Question number 3. Greatest rapper of all time. Come on, bro.
Tupac, bro. Everybody knows
Tupac.
that.
There we go. True West Coast homie right here. Tupac.
Yep.
I'm biased too. I mean, I'm like Tupac, Nas, right? Because Nas longevity. Yeah, I'm sure Tupac would have still been rapping. Yeah. You know what I mean? But
as far as lyrically, I mean, Tupac, he was on a whole nother level as far as getting you just the raw emotion. But I would say lyrically, Nas is up there, you know.
And the most, like, Tupac was prolific, like, just constantly. I mean, the body of 25, and look at the body of work that he.
And then I related to that, like, and then he was, of course, he's from the East Coast, but he was from here too, and that, you know, that's a whole nother story. He's actually the guy that I believe God used to wake me up to a lot of the things of God, because he would, even in his most craziest songs, he would mention God. Right. Like in even Ambitions as a writer, you know, this life as a rap star is nothing without God, was born rough, and, you know, so he those kinds of things, those were seeds, bro, that were planted. I used to actually go to the rancho, the library in Rancho Cucamonga to read books, bro, in the library, because of things like, I didn't know what Illuminati was. I didn't know about none of that until I started hearing him, and I wanted to know. That opened up a whole new world to me. He was way beyond his years, for sure. I mean, you think about 25, that's young to be that knowledgeable and all so much stuff, and he was really articulate in the way he spoke. Yeah, it's because of his upbringing, you know. Yeah. He had that revolutionary, his mom. Yep. His mom was pro-per too. She got out of that case. And yeah, she did. I saw that. I just saw the documentary the other day. It's crazy. Yep. Question number 4 on the Street Gospel Furious 5. If I cruise through Rosemead and I get hungry, where should I go? Man, we lost a lot of our spots. There ain't really many spots. Gotta go to the Asian spots now. Yeah. But I would probably just say gyms. You know, gyms is like a landmark. Oh, so there's the gyms up there? Yeah, we had actually quite a few gyms, but the only one, actually, I don't even know. See, there was a gyms in Bell. That was my spot for a long time. Yeah, gyms was always a spot. I don't even know if it's still there, but Garvey and Jackson. Other than that, we used to have some spots, bro, like Chris and Pitts. That was one of the spots. Chris and Pitts was in Rosemead too. Yeah, that's right. Now it's a Pollo Loco. We had one in Bell for a long time too. Now it's I think it's a car wash and something else. Yeah, but we don't really have many spots like that, bro. It's gone now. We would all go to, like, you know, I mean, we'll go. We're not far from like Whittier Boulevard and King Taco and all that, so that's where I go a lot. That's dope. Last question. Question number 5. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Man, I'm looking for the Lord's return, bro. So I'm hoping that me too. We're caught up and we're in His presence, bro. But I don't know if we're gonna survive another 5 years. The way exactly. But if we're still here, I definitely see myself full-time ministry, preaching God's word. That's my first love. Doing you know, full-time ministry, doing what I love to do for the Lord full-time. But I definitely, there's a lot of things, man. Working with men, of course. I have hopes of maybe opening a nonprofit and helping, you know, people that grew up like me, maybe, you know, working with youth. That'd be good. Helping develop youth, helping them find their place, their role in life, their gifts, helping find, you know, getting them the resources, stuff like that. You know, if I end up in a place, or even with the means to be able to facilitate that, that's something I would love to do. It's awesome, brother. I appreciate you coming out, man. Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the book. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the CD, because you did some Tupac right there, so I like it, man. There's a little flow right there. So yeah. So yeah. Thank you for having me once again. Anybody out there want to tap in and link up? IG Righteous by Faith _RIP. YouTube, you can probably just leave a comment, whatever. Facebook, Isaac Pedroza. And thank you all, man. Thank you all. Thank your wife for opening up your spot here to be able to come and share my testimony. And I just hope and pray that someone can be touched, that the Lord can do something with this. You know, that's Amen. Why we do what we do. Amen. That's it, brother. Amen, appreciate you coming out. Amen. God bless. God bless you too, man. That'll conclude this episode of the Street Gospel Podcast with Isaac Pedroza, man. Make sure you check him out. Get him to your church. Have him come speak. Yes. It's all good. Amen. Yes. Bless you. Peace. We out.